Welcome back to the channel, everybody. So we're going to be working on actually all three vehicles probably in this video. Datsun truck is here at my house in the driveway. Got some new shoes, got some new sensors to put in, all kinds of good stuff. Making progress on getting this thing to the track. The other thing we have to do is we got to get on the 240. We got to raise that thing up a little bit. I love the way it looks slammed, but I can't move it out of my driveway. So we're going to do that. We also need to pull the drive shaft out of the 300ZX so we can take it up to get it repaired. So stay tuned. We're going to do all that in this video. So if you watched the live stream Saturday night, I think it was, you probably saw I got some new rims for the rear end. They're 10-inch wide. They're 15 weld drag lights, the exact same thing as the ones I have, just 4 inches wider. But I still got to get some rubber for them. So I'm working on that. So for now, we still got the 6-inch rims on the back, which are basically useless. I got quite a few things that I want to get taken care of on the truck. One of which is obviously the boost piping setup, which we're not going to work on in this video because that's going to be a whole video on its own. But I do want to work on some sensors. So basically what I've done already is I went ahead and hooked up our fuel pressure sensor. If you remember before, there used to be a gauge here. Took the gauge off, put the sensor on, got the wiring hooked up that was already set up, and that's that. I got two other sensors I need to take care of. First of all, my oil pressure sensor has been broke since forever. So I got a new oil pressure sensor. We got to get that put in. Second thing we need to do is the map sensor. I got a new 4-bar map sensor, but again, if you watch the live stream, you might know I have an issue with it, and I'll show you right now. Give me 1 second. So here are the two map sensors. This is our old one. I already took it out. This is the new one, which is a 4-bar GM map sensor out of some turbo 4-cylinder from a Cadillac or something like that. Might be hard to notice, but as you can see, this nipple on this one is bigger than this one. So I kind of contemplated on how I wanted to handle that. Obviously, we could just hook a piece of pipe to the back of this and hook it up to one of the vacuum ports, and it would work fine. But I didn't want the old sensor just kind of hanging out back there. So what I've decided to do was we're going to take the intake manifold off because we have to do that anyway to get the oil sensor in. We're going to take the intake manifold off and we're going to drill that hole out just a little bit. I was kind of skeptical about doing this because I didn't want to get the plastic shavings. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get all those out, but I think we can handle it. I'll get a vacuum. We'll check it through the throttle body, stuff like that. So I don't think that's going to be too big of a deal. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and take care of that. So I'm going to go ahead and get the intake manifold pulled off, and we'll go from there. Okay, got the intake manifold off. I'm actually really happy. It's the first time I'm probably taking it off and didn't drop one of the washers, so I must be getting better at that. Let's go ahead and take a look here. There is my broken oil pressure sensor. So I'm going to go ahead and get the new one and get that popped in, which also, I don't know if you could see in the video, but yeah, my throttle cable was not tight. It's loose on the firewall. It was loose on the throttle body. So yeah, we'll have to go ahead and tighten that up. All right, so there's the oil pressure sensor in. It is a aftermarket oil pressure sensor. It had really good reviews, so you know, we'll see how that goes, and maybe one day we'll test the accuracy, but it's supposed to be pretty good. It already had some red thread sealant on it, but I always use this stuff right here. It's called Real Tough PTFE paste, and it's basically just like Teflon tape. It's just like a liquid kind of Teflon tape. It's kind of gritty, but it works great. It's good for fuel lines, oil lines, any it's basically for just about anything. So I put it on just about everything. So this is the larger task of the two. Like I said, we got 2 sensors here. Obviously, this one's a little bit smaller, this one's a little bit bigger. This is a 4-bar map, this is only a 1-bar map. So I have to drill this hole out a little bit so this fits in here. So I questioned on doing this for quite some time because I didn't want to mess up my LS6 intake manifold, because they're not that easy to come by, but we're going to go ahead and do it. So basically my plan is to take the vacuum, I'm going to put it here, I'm going to vacuum here while I'm drilling. That way, you know, any shavings that come off this way will hopefully get sucked up. I'll also have it on this vacuum port, so anything there will get sucked up. So I thought about popping this cap off here, which it does come off, but it's apparently really hard to get off because you have to basically push it off from the inside, so I didn't want to get into all that. But I think this is going to be fine, and I mean, worst case scenario, what? I don't know. I guess worst case scenario is a little piece will get stuck in the map sensor and then it doesn't read right, but you know, I'm willing to risk it. It's not that bad. It's just plastic, so you know, we're going to give it a shot. All right, that worked out perfect. There is a gasket, grommet, whatever you want to call it, on this new sensor. It's a little bit wider than the plastic part. So let's see. The sensor I'm using is a GM sensor. It's an AC Delco 12643955. It's a 4-bar map from a, I think it's a 4-cylinder GM turbo. If you type this in, or you go to Sloppy Mechanic, you can get the calibration chart for it. It's, like I said, it's 4-bar, so it'll basically do just about as much boost as you want to put through this thing. What I ended up doing was, let's see, the drill bit size I used is 15/32 was the last one I used there, and I had to kind of just ream it out just a tiny bit. Just take your time, be very careful, and I believe I got all the plastic out too. I mean, I could see some clearly getting sucked in this way, I could see some getting sucked out this way, so I think we're good. I did do it in a bunch of stages so that the pieces would be small and break off easy. Just make sure there's no pieces in here. But this one actually snaps in better now than the old one did. So this makes a really good, seems like clean connection, and I can tell the grommet is in the plastic part. So I think we'll be good there as far as boost leaks, but if we happen to have any, we'll put some silicone on it. But yeah, that's about it. I'm gonna go ahead and get a zip tie and put some zip ties around it. All right, so intake manifold's all back on, everything's plugged back up, everything's bolted down, good to go. So basically, I would love to start the motor now and see if the 3 new sensors we got are working, but unfortunately I need an adapter harness for the map sensor that I'm still waiting on. It should be here tomorrow, plus I'm out of fuel. So we're done there for right now. The last sensor that I want to get installed is this guy right here, which is a flex fuel sensor. Basic GM Continental made flex fuel sensor. So I was struggling with where to put this thing. I think obviously you want it in the feed line, but our feed lines are huge. Our return lines are huge too. So I don't really want to put it in the feed because these ends are so small. I'm afraid it's going to restrict the flow, even though it says that it will flow up to like 400 liters per hour or something like that. But I just don't trust it. Those are really small ports. So basically we're going to put it in the return line. I'm probably going to mount it just past the firewall, like somewhere underneath there in that area. So I'm going to go ahead and figure out where to mount the sensor and get it set up down there. And then I'll get back to you guys when we're making the wiring harness so that you can see that, because that's a little weird, a little tricky, and I did a lot of research to figure it out. So if I can help you guys out, hopefully it'll work the first time here and we'll get it good to go. All right, so I got the harness all made up for the flex fuel sensor, and hopefully I did it right the first time so I don't have to re-explain this later in the video. So basically what we got going on here is these are the two connectors from the truck. This 4-pin one is the power tap. It has a 12 volt, a chassis ground, a sensor ground, and a 5 volt output on here. It's basically just for tapping sensors, exactly what we're doing. This is the input output connector that comes off the harness for my inputs and outputs from the Terminator X. So this yellow wire, ignore that one because that is the output for our fan relay, which I'm going to hook up here when I do the rest of this. These are the ones for our flex fuel sensor. So basically, this blue and white wire is the input wire for where I have the flex fuel sensor mapped into the inputs outputs. This sensor here is basically providing me 12 volts for the sensor, a sensor ground, and then what I'm doing is I'm tapping the 5 volts from here, and I put a 10k ohm half watt resistor in line and tapped it into the signal. And that's basically going to act as a signal amplifier for the incoming signal from the flex fuel sensor. So I'm not using the exact flex fuel sensor that Holly states to use in the instructions on how to do this. So hopefully it still works out. They're basically the same thing. They're just designed a little different, I guess, for different placements in different vehicles. They're both Continental GM flex fuel sensors. So I'm assuming they work the same way internally, but you know, I guess we'll find out here shortly. We still have pump gas in the truck, regular 93 octane pump gas, which I'm told should be around 10% ethanol or something like that. So, you know, if we get a reading around 10%, then we know it's working okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this part of the harness shrink wrapped up, and then basically I have to stick this through that hole in the floor first and then solder the other end on, because it's not gonna fit through without pulling the rest of the wires out. So we're gonna go ahead and go with that for right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that put in and yeah, get that all done. So basically what I'm going to do is, I'm going to show you what I'm super excited about. So you can set up this gauge panel here. It starts when you log. So I'm going to go ahead and set up the log. I'm going to pull up the gauges. And you can see right now the ethanol content says low error. So the 12 volt that comes out of that tap connector is actually from the fuel pump relay. So because the fuel pump is not running right now, it's not providing 12 volts to that sensor, but it will fix that as soon as we start the truck. And then obviously it doesn't really matter because who needs to read ethanol if the fuel pump's not running anyway. So anyway, we're gonna go ahead and start truck. Also, what had happened was the first time I started it, I forgot that when I put the map sensor in, I broke the vacuum port cap. So I created a huge vacuum leak. So I had to find a piece of hose, put a bolt in it, which was basically that thing back there. And then the other one was the little one, which I ended up just connecting to the fuel pressure regulator because I needed that anyway. Well, at least we'll need it for when we do boost. So right here you can see it's reading 9%. It's actually jumping between 9 and 10, which is, again, exactly what I read it should be reading on pump gas, about 10% ethanol. So it's basically dead on and it's working perfect. So yeah, it's awesome. You can see everything else here. Oil pressure is at 45 pounds, which I believe is good for idle. I'm sure if we revved it up, we'd get it a little bit higher. We got map pressure here. This is in kPa, so it's reading map pressure in kPa. So you can see that's running. Air temps are at 100, engine temperature is at 147, so you can see the RPM is slowly dropping down to, I think I have it set at 750. So yeah, I mean, it looks like everything's working. You can see obviously air fuel ratios are about 15. It's probably gonna have to relearn a little bit of this stuff because you know, we changed some of these sensors and stuff like that, but you know, it's running great. So I spent all day yesterday raising the 240 and playing musical car chairs, whatever you want to call it, but that's what I ended up with the 240. So obviously tires aren't tucking, but it still looks good, so I'm happy. And it's definitely high enough off the ground now. We're still going to need to remake the exhaust on that again because I have a flange that's hitting the ground and my flex connection is also very close to the ground. So I want to get rid of those, put the flex in a different spot, and then put some V-bands on. Moved all the cars around to get the 300 to here. A workable space in my driveway. So what we're going to do now is, and this will probably be the last thing we do in this video, we're going to put this thing up on 4 jack stands, and we're going to take the drive shaft out. Assuming the drive shaft is the issue, I'll throw a video in right now telling you what I'm talking about, and then we'll get to it. All right, so I'm probably just gonna skip most of that, but you can see now how absolutely totally destroyed this shoe joint is. Look, I mean, it's completely destroyed. So this is definitely where a vibration was coming from. The other two on the ends look good. If these U-joints are still good, then I might just get the universals replaced, or I might just go ahead and have them make me a one-piece drive shaft at my local drive shaft company. But it's out, finally. So I ended up taking the exhaust out because honestly, I was just kidding myself. There was no way I was getting that out with the exhaust on. And I also found that we had an exhaust leak. So I have these flanges on my exhaust. I'd like to put V-bands. I don't know if I'm going to go that far or not. I mean, I got the welder now, so it wouldn't be too bad. But, you know, trying to do as little work as possible. There's a couple other things we need to do to 300 to have it drift ready. I have a leak in my power steering pump. So it's not in the lines. I think it's actually from the pump itself. So we'll probably get a power steering pump rebuild kit. It's literally bone dry right now. So we'll probably get a rebuild kit for that. And then I got new headlights to put in. And we also have to fix some of this wiring up here because these blinkers and stuff don't work. So we're going to be getting to that. And then I don't know what else we're going to do. I want to make it look a little prettier, but obviously there's not really much to be, how do I put this? It's a drift car, you know, it's going to get banged up more. I know the second I try to put a good paint job on it, I'm going to run it into a tire wall. But what we might do is we might end up maybe plasti dipping the whole thing. I've always wanted to do that. It would obviously get the car one color and it definitely make it look better. We'll probably do something with these points here too, maybe get some nicer like the rubber band style connectors here just to make some of this stuff line up a little better. And other than that, she's ready to go. I mean, it runs solid. It starts right up. It needs a new battery, but yeah, it runs solid. And I got tires for it already. The front tires are good. I got at least one set of drift ready tires in the back, so I'll probably get 1 or 2 more sets before we go. But I'm hoping to do an event probably towards the end of August, and I'm hoping maybe even a night togue. So we might be putting some underglow or some LED lights in this thing to get it all ready. So stay tuned for some 300ZX videos. We're also going to be finishing up the Datsun truck. I got the wastegates in the mail the other day, so we're going to be putting those on and getting some boost pipes done. I'm still trying to decide whether or not I want to run an intercooler on this car, on the Datsun truck that is. I might end up running one just to kind of help keep it cool, but you know, we'll see how it goes. But anyway, thanks for watching. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.